Hello, my name is Coed Davies. I'm the Senior Project Manager for the LIFE Celtic Rainforests Project. A project that's led by Eryri National Park Authority and brings together another 6 partners who have a shared ambition to improve the conservation status of the temperate rainforests across Wales. The project is primarily funded by the European Commission via the LIFE Nature and Biodiversity Programme, but with also significant financial contributions from Welsh Government, Coed Llwybr, the Woodland Trust, RSPB Cymru, Dŵr Cymru, Welsh Water and Natural Resources Wales. We're here today at Coed Llwybr Caerynwch, just outside Dolgellau, to introduce a case study of how we've begun the process of restoring an ancient woodland back into its natural state. And we'll be talking about the work with Adam Thorogood from Coed Llwybr Woodland Trust and Sabine Uve from RSPB Cymru.
I'm Adam Thorogood and I'm a forester, and I've been working on the Celtic Rainforests Wales project. And it's a site where we've spent some of the money from the project, and the aim of that has been to restore the ancient woodland here, which runs along the side of the Afon Llwybr. If we look at the old maps, we can see that there's been woodland here for hundreds and hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. And that means that there's really important habitat here at this site, which is clinging on under the conifers which were planted in the mid-20th century. So the focus of the work has been to thin the conifers and to remove some of them, but not all. So we've just been lightly thinning around really important features. So where the bedrock comes out of the soil, sometimes that is a place where lots of moss grows, and some of the mosses here are really important, internationally important mosses which we find in the rainforest. The owners gave us permission to come and survey the site. So I carried out an ancient woodland survey which looked at all of the different ancient woodland features that still are here at the woodland. So looking at mature trees, looking at areas of flora, ancient woodland flora, looking at how much deadwood is here, and also looking at archaeological features because the site has got a long and deep history. So once we'd got the permission from the owners, carried out the survey, and then I carried out a series of measurements to work out the volume of the different conifer species growing here, and used that to put together a felling licence application which I submitted to Natural Resources Wales, and that triggered a SSI consent query.
This is to ensure that the features of that SSI aren't damaged during the operations. At Coed Llwybr Caerynwch, the features are lower plant assemblages, which is things like the mosses, bryophytes and lichens which grow on the boulders and the trees around us, and especially along the river or the Ceunant, the gorge. So we applied for a SSI consent, and Cyfoeth Naturiol Cymru granted it, on the proviso that we adhere to a few extras. The first was that we maintain 80% of the canopy cover. So we could only cut up to 20% of the trees within the canopy. And that's mainly to do with the lower plants, with the mosses and lichens, to ensure that they're protected from drought or heavy frosts. The second thing that was required from us was that we commission an expert survey of the lower plants, of the lichens and bryophytes found in this woodland. We enlisted the help or the services of the Welsh Specialist for Plant Life, which is a UK charity, and he surveyed these woodlands and came up with a species list of everything found here. The third requirement was that we complete that European Protected Species Survey. All of the recommendations made in that survey's report would be followed. So we conducted the European Protected Species Survey internally, using myself as the ecologist to survey for otters and dormice, which are the European protected species we know are found in this area, and Adam Thorogood from the Woodland Trust, who checked for bats, which are the third group of animals we were looking for.
Because the Meirionydd Oakwoods network of woodlands is so important for bats, and particularly lesser horseshoe bats, we had to carry out a roost survey here at the site before any work took place. So that involved going from tree to tree and having a look at features which bats might use as roosts. And then we marked those potential roost featured trees for the contractor so they would take care when felling around them.
I looked for signs of otters nesting or just feeding and living, but the otters are limited to the main river especially. And so it was quite easy to rule out any impact on them since none of the operations were going to work close to the river. That as well would protect the lower plants, all of the lichens and bryophytes found along the riverbanks. So the last species that we were concerned about were the dormice. And there are records of dormice in the area, but it's virtually impossible to find a dormouse. In the winter, they hibernate under leaves at the base of trees, and in the summer, they're very, very secretive and hiding amongst the trees. So we weren't expecting to find dormice, but we could find signs of them. In the autumn, we looked for hazelnuts, which might have been eaten by dormice with their distinctive gnaw marks. And in the summer, I conducted a survey looking for suitable dormouse habitat, like the habitat here. What I ended up doing was mapping suitable dormouse habitat within the area. And with that, we were able to advise that the forestry operations avoid felling or cutting any trees within these little glades of dormouse habitat, or felling trees into those glades, which could have been possible. The last recommendation we made in the European Protected Species report was that if during the operations anybody found European protected species, such as a dormouse or a bat, for example, if a tree was felled and inside we found roosting bats, then all work should stop and Cyfoeth Naturiol Cymru should be contacted. And one of their species experts could come out and support the team.
So there's lots of mist and spray which is thrown up by the river, and that's trapped by the canopy of trees. And that creates very important, very special habitats where plants that really need a lot of moisture and humidity will grow. So those plants are mosses, liverworts, lichens and ferns. And here is a place where some very important species of those plant families grow. In amongst the conifers are mature broadleaf trees, which are growing from before the plantation was established. So there are a range of different species, some ash, some sessile oak and some small-leaved lime like the tree behind me here. So the problem is that the conifers are so fast growing that they grow up into the crowns of these trees and they can suppress their growth. And if there's no thinning carried out, then eventually those trees will die. Now these trees form a really important connection back to the previous woodland canopy of the past, the previous native woodland canopy. So the work that we've been carrying out here has been to halo thin around these trees, and that means opening up around the crown of the tree where the branches divide from the stem in order to provide light to the crown of the tree and bring it back from the brink so that these trees can thrive again, produce seed and then regenerate here in the woodland. Because it had been a long time since any work was carried out at this woodland, we had to put some tracks in order to create access so that the timber could be removed. But these weren't new tracks, these were actually reinstating old tracks which existed here from when it was owned by the local estate. So those are actually really good tracks. We just had to scrape off the top layer in order that the machinery could use those tracks to come in and extract the timber. So along these streamlines are really important mosses and liverworts. So the habitat here is really good because it's so moist and humid that these plants love growing in these conditions. So the work we've been doing has also been to halo thin around these features in the woodland to remove conifers from either side of the stream so that we can let more light in and we can allow broadleaf regeneration to happen along the stream edges.
The first phase of work undertaken through Celtic Rainforest Life achieved what we hoped, opening up the woodland canopy in strategic areas, which in turn should allow natural regen of native species to take hold in the understory. However, further long-term management will be needed at the site if we're to reach our ultimate ambition of full reversion to semi-natural rainforest. This will include further thinning operations, management of conifer regen in the understory, and the management of other undesirable species which may take hold at the site as the canopy is opened up. It will take decades to achieve full restoration, but the initial first interventions facilitated through Celtic Rainforest Life are a key to starting this long-term process.